Well, I see you have returned. I do indeed admire your courage. After all, it takes a truly brave soul to seek an audience with me. And who am I? Just think of me as your very own personal ghost host. I'm here to tuck you in tonight. So, lock your windows and doors, look in your closet and under your bed, and hold your blankets tight, and prepare for 6 terrifying true stories about haunted highways. Our first tale of the night comes from a couple that has an experience driving down Highway 20 in Oregon. It's called Whispering Kids.
We were driving back from Las Vegas, back to our hometown in Oregon, but we figured we would stop in Bend at the end of the day, stay in a hotel, and finish our 16-long drive back in the town. I can tell you this, if you ever go through Highway 375, 305, 95, 78 to Vegas, or from Vegas, it can get eerie with spots that roadside assistance is not available, with nothing but sand and dirt mountains for miles, hours. Don't recommend, but to each their own. We have made it about 11.5 hours in and we passed Burns, Oregon, relaxing playing music while snow was hitting the windshield, with no visibility of what's on the side of the roads, because it was about 9 p.m. and the night filled the sky. Somewhere between Burns and Bend on Highway 20. No cars were around. I was already feeling something was off. Anxiety, maybe. As if I felt this, I heard kids talking behind the music I was playing. I just figured, oh, it's just the music. But then my wife says, "Do you hear kids talking?" That sent chills down my whole body. I turned off the music completely. Me and my wife put our phones up to our ears to make sure no sound was coming from our devices. Everything was off and no sounds from our devices, just the sounds of kids talking, out in the woods, no other cars around for miles. They sounded like a small child and an older child. I tried to entertain the idea of listening in on what they were saying, but the sound of kids sounded like they were in the car with us, and I was not going to give my energy to this. My wife flipped the cosmetic mirror in the car, afraid to even look back. I turned the music loud, even though I could still hear them. It lasted about 3 minutes total. I prayed in my head for it to stop and to keep us safe. My wife, who is not much a believer of this stuff, was genuinely afraid. It ended up stopping, and the sigh of relief while chatting and processing what just happened. We talked about how no one will ever believe this. It was something that can't be explained, and I wish I would have listened in more, but giving your energy to things unexplained can be dangerous. I'm grateful to have my wife who experienced this with me, so I didn't feel like it was only me. Hearing her say, "Do you hear kids?" was the point I knew it was for real. Scary moment, but fascinating. But if anyone has any stories on Highway 20, I would love to hear them. I wish I could pinpoint the exact location, but in between Burns and Bend by Glass Butte.
Ha! I bet your wife's a believer now. Anyway, on to our next one. A young man recounts his story from a decade ago when his family were driving down Highway 95 in Nevada. We call this one Ghost Boy.
I've never visited this subreddit, but I thought it would be a good place to share my true story of what we thought may have been a ghost. This happened almost a decade ago. My family was moving from Reno, Nevada to Las Vegas, Nevada. We were separated into 2 cars, the moving truck and the family car. I rode with my mother in the family car, and my younger brother was in the truck with my dad. Somewhere along the long, boring drive through the Nevada desert, I had fallen asleep midday. I awoke from my nap and groggily looked around. After a few minutes, I thought I saw, but can't really say I saw, rather sensed with a different sense, a child on the right side of the road. I thought it was weird that a kid would be on the side of a highway all alone in the middle of the desert during the day, but as I looked in the side mirror to see if the kid was still there, we were apparently turning a corner, and the kid would have been out of view. I asked my mom, "Did you see that kid on the side of the road?" And she said, "No, there was no kid. I've been watching the road this whole time. Go back to sleep." So I shrugged off the idea and thought nothing more of it. Fast forward to lunchtime, maybe an hour or so later, we decided to meet with my dad and brother at a McDonald's somewhere along the way. When my dad and brother enter, my brother excitedly exclaims, "Did you guys see the ghost?" Shocked, all of us but my dad asked him what he meant. My dad explained that just before Hawthorne, my brother said he saw a ghost boy on the side of the road, with his mouth open and wearing tattered clothes. My brother said he was all green-blue. It honestly hadn't even occurred to me at this point that the kid I faintly saw for a split second was the same as my brother's ghost boy, until my mother said, "Wait, Anan, me said he saw a kid on the side of the road too. Where did you say he saw the ghost boy?" My dad said that he saw him just north of Hawthorne. My mother, interested at this point, recalled that it was north of Hawthorne that I asked about the kid on the side of the road. We talked for hours about the possibility of a ghost boy on the side of the road. I can't for sure say that what I saw was a ghost, and it almost felt like a dream when I saw it. But my brother's vivid imagery of what he saw lends credence to the fact that it was indeed a ghost boy, especially since the drivers watching the road did not see him when he was in plain sight on the side of the road.
Well, so much for any doubts your mom may have had. Next, we have one from a woman that has a long drive ahead of her. Of course, her drive is not made any shorter when she encounters a lady in white. This one is called The Woman on the Highway.
I cannot believe I fell asleep at my boyfriend's house. When I woke up it was 1 a.m. and I had an 8 a.m. morning class, 2.5 hours away. I hate driving that far so late or early. I also hate not getting enough sleep during the night. I got dressed and headed out. I had to admit, getting out of the city had never been so pleasant without the normal traffic, and it was cool enough to roll down a window without feeling like you're sitting in an oven. My music was blasting, there was nothing but the open road, me, and the occasional car or truck. Surprisingly, I wasn't even that tired. It was pitch black out, all you could see was what my headlights illuminated, and a billion stars up above. It was beautiful. Driving across the plateau was my favorite part of the trip. During the daylight you could see the vegetation start to change and some beautiful mountains in the background. The temperature had dropped a little, and I was singing along to my driving playlist at the top of my lungs, performing yet another great car concert. At the same time, I was constantly scanning the side of the road for coyotes or other wildlife that may wander into the road. If you've ever had close encounters with game, you know how important this is. Mid-song, I saw something move from the right side of the road. The entire thing happened extremely fast, but I remember every detail. My peripheral vision caught something white, causing unusual contrast just outside of the range of my headlights up ahead. As my eyes focused, I saw that it was on the move towards the road. I still couldn't see what it was, but it sure had my attention at this point. I started to ease off the gas, just in case. I also turned down the music. As it moved into my headlights range I could make out the figure of a woman, in a white robe or dress, moving at a fairly quick pace. I could tell that if we both kept speed, we would collide up ahead. Between her long flowing white dress and the shrubs on the side of the road I couldn't see her legs, but I knew she was running fast. For a split second I doubted my sanity. A woman in a white dress, in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the night? Maybe I was more tired than I thought. She was still running towards the road, but she seemed to have slowed down a little. I could now see her long blonde hair, and I was trying to get a look at her face, to see her expression, to figure out if she had taken notice of my car plowing down the freeway, to see if she was running towards me to get my attention, if she was scared, or if she was maybe laughing and it was all a late-night prank. Anything really, anything to help me figure out my next steps, after not hitting her, obviously. I slowed down considerably, but I still wasn't sure if I was actually going to stop the car. I had heard stories of women in distress stopping cars of people that were then never found alive ever again. No, thank you. She was almost to the edge of the road now, right ahead of me. I still couldn't make out her face, but I could tell she wasn't even looking in my direction. She hadn't noticed me or the car at all. I slammed on my brakes hard and swerved into the left lane completely unnecessarily. The second she had reached the pavement, she disappeared. Disintegrated. Just went up in smoke right at the edge of the road. With my car barely rolling at walking speed, I searched the side of the road, no trace of a woman. I searched the road behind me, ahead of me, next to me, nothing. No woman, no other cars, nothing. For a second I thought about getting out and looking for her but decided against it. I took note of the milepost and drove off. Was that even real? Was I so tired I was giving shape to the shadows? Why would shadows be bright white? If she was real, where did she go? I took out my cell phone and called the police. I decided to word the incident differently because I wanted them to actually drive out there and check and not have me committed instead. I told the operator that I was driving and I thought I saw a woman wandering around next to the highway near the milepost I took note of, that it seemed weird for someone to be out there in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night, but that I was alone and didn't feel safe stopping. The answer I got was that highway patrol was not far from there and they would check it out. I remember checking the news for weeks, but nothing unusual about that area was ever reported, other than a few accidents or roadwork alerts on the highway. For years I tried to convince myself I imagined the whole thing, until I came across stories about the lady in white. I don't know if that's what it was, but I know I saw something that night. Has anyone here ever experienced anything like this?
Oh, I don't know, maybe she just heard your singing and thought, gee, I wonder what that enchanting sound is. And she decided to investigate. Which is not something anyone ever thinks when I sing. Before we get into our next tale, I just want to take a moment to remind you to, assuming your hands are not trembling with terror at the moment, hit like and subscribe. It'll really raise our spirits, so to speak. And if you don't, I swear I'll come and haunt your house. I'll rattle chains at all hours of the night, yell boo while you're trying to sleep. I'll raid your fridge, and I'll, try on all your clothes and stuff. Just a lot of scary stuff. For our next devilish delight, we'll be whisked away to the highways of Texas, where a group of travelers has an experience that might end up changing their minds on ever getting into a car again. We call this one Highway Encounter in West Texas.
About a month ago, a buddy of mine, his girlfriend, and myself were returning to Cisco from a jam session in Abilene. It had been a pretty fun night of passing around instruments and as well as other stuff, and at the time of the event, we were all pretty straight. We were between mile 310 and 313 markers when this all happened, and it happened so quickly, all in the blink of an eye. I was watching the road from the back seat in the middle as my friend absent-mindedly smoked a cigarette out the driver's window. His girlfriend was messing around on Instagram or something, and suddenly a woman with long dark hair and pale skin, draped in flowing white clothing, appeared in front of the driver's side wheel, and it was almost like we passed through her and passed just by her at the same time. The reactions of me and my friend were pretty much second for second, exactly the same time. He swerved slightly, but at the same time ripped his arm away from the window, dropping his cigarette and screaming, "Holy crap." At the same time his reaction started, I was shouting, "Do you fudging see that?" I felt something very cold wash over me quickly. I turned in my seat and saw nothing in the road behind us in the wash of headlights. I had seen her up till and lost visual at the window beside me and to my left. At this time my friend and I were freaking out in unison, and his girlfriend was trying to understand why. He proceeded to tell me that he freaked out because he felt a warm touch slowly drag on his skin as he passed her, and he saw her same as I did, clear as day. I was living in the tiny house off the Scranton Road exit at the time, and it's right on the service road. I got very little sleep that night, lol. I haven't looked up if there have been any significant events there or if it's common on that part of the highway, but anyway, that's my story. Thanks for reading it.
Wow, talk about close encounters of the creepiest kind. Next, we drive down Clinton Road in New Jersey, where a group of ghost hunters bit off more than they can chew. This one is simply titled, The Most Haunted Road in New Jersey.
Hello, everyone. I've been lurking here and finally decided to post my encounter as I'm somewhat new to Reddit. Hope you enjoy. I used to ghost hunt with friends. This was a couple of years ago. I was still in college. I worked at my local high school in South Jersey on the night shift for some extra money. But unfortunately, the hours meant I didn't really get to have a life during the week. I get a call from my friend group on a Friday before I headed into work saying that they were going to explore Clinton Road, which was known to be the scariest road in New Jersey. Obviously, I couldn't go, so I told them to let me know how they made out. Later in the night, I get a call from them in panic, saying all these crazy things happened to them. They described what happened to them, how they threw coins over Ghost Boy Bridge, and they came back, a ghost truck following them, and the feeling of being watched. I thought they were just hyping it up because I missed out. So, it was decided we'd all go the next night, but this time, I got to see it for myself, something I'd regret for the rest of my life. Us being from South Jersey, Clinton Road is a bit of a drive for us, about 2 hours, so there was plenty of time for us to get all hyped up and spooked out. Now I can only describe myself as the manly man of the group, being 6 feet 5 inches 260. Especially back then, I had the persona of, it's all made up, nothing will scare us. Boy, was I wrong. Right when we get there, the entire vibe changed from, we're all going to be spooked to, wait, this is actually pretty damn creepy. The road is in the middle of the woods, houses few and far between. The first thing we see when we get there is a small mini castle-looking building is the best I can describe it. And because of the long ride, we all had to pee. So I went to the left, friend 2 Joe went straight, and friend 3 Har went to the right. Friend 4 was female who stayed behind us in the road. After I was done, I immediately walked back along with Har, but we noticed Joe walking towards a creepy building. I start shouting, asking what he was doing, and he turns back around with a look of shock. Me, being completely confused, I ask, what are you doing walking there? Joe swore up and down that I was actually behind the building waving at him to follow me to the building. So naturally we are all getting freaked out. We pulled up to the bridge, and I check everyone for coins to make sure they don't fake it just to scare me. We all throw the coins, nothing happens. See guys, it's all in your head, let's go. So we all start walking back to the car. Cling, cling, cling. I hear the coins hit the road. We sprint back to check, and we find the coins laying in the road. I was 100% convinced they were just messing with me. So I had the idea to mark a coin so they couldn't fake it. Threw the coin in the water. Waited 5 minutes in silence. Nothing. See guys, let's go. Cling, cling, cling. I hear coins in the road. I walk back. I'll be damned. It was a coin with the same exact markings I put on it. I'm extremely freaked at this point. So we decide to go driving down the winding road in a newer sports car. We are all freaked and just want to leave. We see headlights appear behind us, seemingly out of nowhere. We did not see them attached to a vehicle. I'm no car expert, but I bet my life they were lights on an old truck. Getting closer the faster we went, taking bends at fast speeds that even a new truck wouldn't handle. Suddenly the lights disappear. So now, all in panic, we decide to pull over to map our way out. Dead silence. No light except our headlights in the woods. We hear the typical women ghost moan. And of course what came with it was a typical woman in white dress standing in the woods right next to our car, and she let out the loudest scream I have ever heard. We are screaming at this point to get out of Dodge. Once we make it back to the main roads, we decide to dig a little deeper on this road. Apparently the ghost truck tries to make people crash on Dead Man's Curve. There have been numerous bodies buried there from the infamous Iceman. On our way home, we were so ballsy and wanted to go back again the next night. We suddenly pass an old run-down church that looks like it hasn't been used in 50 years. And of course, the sign left out front, "You need Jesus on Sunday." Safe to say that I never went back, and even up to this day, The friend group still refuses to talk about what happened that night on Clinton Road.
Wait. Are you bloody well kidding me right now? You're supposed to be quote-unquote ghost hunters, but when you actually have an encounter, you, pee yourself? Is that in a part of the ghost hunter handbook that I'm unaware of or something? Our last story, before we do a complete U-turn and you head back to the safety of your homes, is from a woman who, along with her sister, has a truly terrifying experience on their way home on a highway in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It's called, Thanks for the Ride, Lady.
This happened a few years ago. My mom, late 60s, sister and I, both in our late 30s, had just finished a day of outlet shopping in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and were on our way home on Route 30, sometimes a highway and sometimes a local road. At the point this happened, we were on the highway section traveling around 65 miles per hour. My sister was driving, I was in the passenger seat, and my mom was in the back of my mom's minivan, right behind my seat. It was dark, and there weren't many cars on the road, but the road was lit well enough. As we're driving at a good clip, I notice a man walking along the side of the road up ahead. He is a tall, skinny black guy, and strangely wearing a sort of burgundy three-piece suit. No tie, but clearly a vest and open white shirt. I think nothing of it as he's coming closer because I figure he broke down and is walking to a gas station not far from the on-ramp. Suddenly, as we're about to pass him, he seems to jump onto the passenger side door inches from me. We're driving fast, but he's not falling off. My sister and I both start screaming and she's swerving the car. I clamp onto the door and scream more. He's trying to get in. This seems to last at least 20 seconds. And then suddenly he's gone. Gone. He didn't fall. I look back. Nothing and no one is there. And my mom saw nothing except my sister and me screaming. She's screaming at us, trying to understand why we were freaking out. She didn't see him at all, even though he would have been right in front of her. My sister and I, once we regained our composure and stopped shaking, started comparing notes. We described the exact same person and the exact same experience. Still freaks me out on that stretch of road.
Well, that's a hell of a thing, ain't it? Of course, if he tried that crap while he was still among the living, then we at least know how he passed away. Some ghosts just totally misunderstand the phrase to catch a ride. Well, so ends our trek down the highways and byways of terror. I hope these stories did not leave you questioning your sanity too much. But do you know a way you can make sure your sanity is still intact? By hitting like, subscribe, and sharing this video, it'll really help us keep the ghosts at bay. However, if you prefer podcast, then you're in luck, because we also release our videos in podcast form on Spotify. And of course, if any of you have a story to share, then by all means, drop me a line in the comments. But I do want to thank you for stopping by, and I hope the stories we told won't be giving you too many bad dreams. But if they do, then maybe you shouldn't run from them. After all, sometimes it's better to embrace your nightmares